Hey guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to Pokey Accountant. Today I want to talk about building a investing plan for 2026. It's the last day of the year and as we enter into this new year, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about building a budget that works for you and sticking with it. I think too far often within the Pokemon hobby, we spend money, maybe sometimes spend a little bit too much money than we can afford and end up using credit cards, end up having to take loans and then realizing we're in a bad spot. Then we got to sell everything for cheaper than what we paid for. We got to pay interest on the credit card, so on and so forth. And I don't want that to happen to anyone. I don't want that to happen to any of you this year. So I thought this video would be helpful as we plan for this new year. Let me go ahead and minimize my window. All right, drag that guy to the top. Alrighty, so the first thing that I want to talk about today, whoops, the first thing I want to talk about today is what kind of income situation are you in? And we're all in different income situations, and that's all right. You could be a student and you could be making and working a part-time job, making $10,000, $20,000 a year. Your cost of living might be really low because perhaps your parents paid for you, or maybe you got a full-time a scholarship, right? And your cost of living is rather cheap. Or it could be the flip side. You could make a little bit more. You could be making $40,000 as a student, and you pay $25,000 for a cost of living. And these are just kind of different scenarios that we're all in. We all have different income levels, and we all have different situations with our living. And for the sake of and it's really important to understand what situation you're in, because if you don't have as much money to spare because of circumstances in life, should you be investing in Pokemon, or should you maybe consider some other things like savings accounts, backup money for health if you need that, right? These are just kind of all things to kind of consider, and I wanted to talk about since this is so much more important than the Pokemon investing itself. There's no point in having a box 10x if you have some, family issues or some health issues that need to be taken care of first. I don't care if you have a 10x box, that's just being irresponsible. So let's really consider these things as we look into the new year, as we look into Pokemon investing. And another thing to consider is whether or not, you invest in other things besides Pokemon, such as a 401k, such as cryptocurrencies, gold, silver, stocks. And if so, how much are you already investing in those, right? Because if you are investing in these, it's taking away from what you can potentially put in Pokemon and other things in your life, or even cost of living, right? That's why I said cost of living should be first. It's your highest consideration, okay? Um, and a savings account. I do recommend everyone have a savings account. You should have enough money in here to survive for 3 to 6 months. So if there were ever to be a emergency, God forbid, but if there were an emergency, you would have enough funds to make sure you don't go homeless, to make sure you're not on the street, you're not starving, you can still drive your car, you can still live your life, you can still take care of your family, so on and so forth. And I believe everyone should have a savings account, okay? Please establish a savings account with an emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of living expenses before you even consider investing, okay? That's the first thing I want you all to do. And I know some of us are still in education and paying for that, for tuition. Maybe you're a part-time student. Maybe you are helping and supporting a family member get educated, like you have children. That's also another cost to consider. Another cost to consider is family. Some of us, have a spouse. Some of us have kids, children, or parents to even take care of, grandparents, living situations. And if that's you, this might also be a factor to consider. And for health, some of us might have things that are going on in our health that, we also need to put as an importance. And if that's a cost that you need to consider, please do it. Another big thing is like vacation, or we can consider this leisure time. How much money are you spending going on vacations? um, considering other hobbies, video games, food, like eating out, and just just extra kind of leisure money that you enjoy spending. Like, how much of that do you enjoy spending on like leisure, right? That's also another cost to consider, and there's probably a whole bunch more that I'm not really mentioning in this video or haven't mentioned so far. And um, I know life is so much more complicated than just like a few lines that I've laid out on this spreadsheet, but please consider your situation and what kind of costs and things you spend in life before you even get over this hurdle and consider Pokemon investing. If you are, if you're not in a good situation based off this right here, I don't know if you should be investing in Pokemon, okay? That's just, I think, the truth of the matter. And so let's just say we are doing good. Let's just say we are in situation three, all right? And that's the one I'll be using in this example. We make $60,000 a year after tax, and our cost of living for housing, for food, utilities is 30,000. Just bear with me. I know sometimes, depending on your state and city, it could be a lot more than that. Let's just say that's what we're gonna do and use for this example, okay? And after your cost of living, you got $30,000 left over. And what do you want to do with that $30,000? For this example, let's just say this company has a 401k employer match, and they do match your 401k, and you're like, yeah, I want to take advantage of that. So let's just say you spend $5,000 a year on your 401k, and let's just say, yeah, you also like crypto, so you will spend, let's just say, 2,500 a year for crypto, right? And gold and silver, you don't buy gold and silver. uh, you do buy stocks, right? So let's just say you spend 2,500 a year on speculative stocks. It could be tech stocks or whatever it is that fancies you, right? You're not in education. You do like going on vacations once a year. So let's just say you like spending 2,500 on that, okay? And savings account. Let's just say for this scenario, you've already established a savings account, so you're not worried about it. You got $15,000 or $15,000 in the bank, and this is what you will use in case of an emergency, and you will never, dip below $15,000. It's not to touch. So that would be an example of healthy investing, okay? So you already spent $12,500 in this scenario on investing on things other than Pokemon, right? And let's just say because of that, you only have, after this, let's say you got $15,000 left. Do you want to go 50% into Pokemon, 25 or 10%, right? Like, how much more do you want to spend on Pokemon, right? Some of us look at this differently. Some of us would be like really heavy investors. We trust, and we're in a really good scenario, and you're like, wow, I want to spend $15,000 on Pokemon, and I want to invest this 12,500 on other stuff. You're like, at this point, you're all into investing. And some of us might have even different risk appetites, right? So this might be too much Pokemon for you. You might only be comfortable with 3,000, or you might be comfortable with a little bit more. You might be comfortable with 7,500 or 6,000, 5,000, 6,000, whatever it is in between. Figure out an amount that works for you. Maybe you don't really care about stocks. Maybe you don't really care about vacation or crypto, and you're just good with your 401k, right? And in this scenario, you could even go heavier into Pokemon if that's really what you want to do. Of course, weigh out your risk, your reward, your benefits. I don't know you as the viewer well enough to assess your situation, and even then, I don't have your understanding of your risk tolerance, and my risk tolerance and my situation is totally different, and my circumstances are different from yours, so I might choose a different number depending on the situation that I'm in, right? Or maybe you get a promotion next year, and you used to make 30,000 and now you make 45. Well, things change again, right? Or maybe you bought Team Up and you sell two boxes, and this year all of a sudden you got 55,000. You know what I'm saying? So income really does fluctuate, and where you decide to reallocate your money really just depends, but it's something that you want to think about before you consider buying Pokemon. So we're not even talking about the product to buy. We're not even talking about how long you should hold. We're talking about, am I even in the financial situation to invest in Pokemon? And if so, how much can I reasonably and responsibly invest in? Also, what is my risk appetite and how much am I willing to invest? These are all things to consider when you're investing in Pokemon. And let's just keep going with situation three. Let's just say we are comfortable with investing $7,500 a year on Pokemon. That's about $600 a month. I think if you that by 12, divide that by 12, that's about, yeah, $625 a month that you're willing to spend on Pokemon, okay? And like, how do you use this balance, right? This is the point of budgeting. We don't want to go over $7,500. If you said your budget was 7,500 and you spent 15,000 and you spent like the remaining 22,500 elsewhere, you're now in a deficit. You spent way more than you can afford. Maybe you took out loans, and that's when you need to start selling, and that's not a good thing, okay? So what are things that how do you allocate this $7,500 reasonably and responsibly? That's what this next question is. So I think the first thing that I always do is I would allocate it for Pokemon Center drops or local LGS sales. Every year, I think Pokemon releases about 4 or 5 sets, and sometimes they do reprints on older sets like PC. I think we saw a Stellar Crown PCETB reprint, for example. Not the best item, but at MSRP $60, I mean, like, come on, I'll take it, right? These are the first things to consider. PokemonCenter.com will release Pokemon Center products, their ETBs, booster bundles, booster packs. They'll release good items at MSRP, booster boxes, right? Destined Rivals, or even your vending machines, right? Or your local LGS. Wherever you can find PCETBs or ETBs, booster boxes at MSRP, those are the first items that you should be picking up. And this can sometimes be $1,000 a year, or it could go up to like even $2,000 a year, depending on your availability and how much access do you have in items. You can very well spend 1,000 or more every year, and that is how you should probably be spending it, right? So if you were any of these guys here, right, I think you would have spent your entire budget just on the first thing to buy in Pokemon. So if you were, a student, or you're in situation 1 and 2, and this is how much money you're willing to spend, I wouldn't even say go buy a Destined Rivals booster box. Go buy a Surging Sparks booster box. Go buy a Sword and Shield Fusion Strike booster box. I would not tell you to do that. If you are in this situation where you only have a couple grand to spare, 1 or 2, focus on the Pokemon Center drops, man. Go get the PCETBs. Go get the MSRP items. I don't think you should be going and buying, like, spending 100% of your budget. Let's say you made 20, you're gonna spend 2,500. Don't get an Evolving Skies booster box and then that's it. I mean, you could, but that would be 100% of your money on one Evolving Skies booster box, and you're gonna bet the whole thing on that. Or you can decide to allocate it, and you can, an Evolving Skies booster box. Let's just say you spent 2,500 on this, okay? And it tripled, or it tripled eventually. That'd be 7,500. But what if and that would take time, right? Even if it doubled, it'd be 5,000. Not even 4,500. Like, yeah, whatever. Well, for this scenario, we'll just say double, 5,000. For 2,500, do you know how many PCETBs you could have bought at MSRP? You could have gone, the Ascending Heroes drop. You could have gotten those booster bundles and the two PC. That's already like $270. And the booster bundles we know like doubled in value as soon as you bought it. The PC ETBs tripled in value as soon as you bought it. That is much greater return on your money. Or let's just say you go to Vaughn's or Safeway, whatever is near you, and you go into the vending machine and you get a Phantasmal Flames booster box for $161 before tax. After tax, 177. The market price is 210, 220. Hey, that's a great item to buy at MSRP, right? Even if it's not doing too well right now, hey, a year from now, that could be like 250, 260, pushing to high 200s unless it gets a reprint. But even then, you're in for so low. You're in for so low and you still have budget to acquire other things. So focus on the Pokemon Center items, the products, and focus on like cheap LGS MSRP items. That's the first thing you should spend. Okay? And the next thing would be fire sales. Sometimes you find things real cheap. Sometimes you'll find items 80, 85% of what they should be. And those are great things to pick up. How much money you spend on this, it could really depend, right? Remember, we talked about how people can spend way more than they have available. That's called blowing your budget. It's called being stupid, right? So stupid people will blow their budget, spend way much more than they have, and now they have a $5,000 credit card loan that they cannot pay back. So what do they do? What do they do? They sell items on fire sales so they can pay that credit card as soon as possible. And that's what I would focus on next. Fire sales. A few months ago, I saw a guy who was fire selling Destined Rivals booster boxes and Paldea Evolve booster boxes. He was selling them for $320 a piece. And Paldea Evolve, Destined Rivals, they're 400 now, and even going up. And that's like 80% of the market. Why? I don't know. He had to sell it, right? I would have gotten it if he wasn't 80 miles away. Yeah, I'm not gonna take a little sale to drive 80 miles and 160-mile round trip. That's not worth it. But those are the items that I would pick up, right? Or a few months ago, someone was selling 151 booster bundle displays, and they're selling it for 1,200. And at that time, the market was 1,500. It's dropped since, but when things are 80% of the market, that's a really good sale. And even if it drops, it's like you're still protecting yourself from so much that could happen, right? Um, I think those are things that I would focus on next. And really, this is just having money that's available. And next to that would be good deals. Sometimes you see good deals and there's nothing else really going on. Always go for the good deals first, right? If you see a Evolving Sky booster box for 2,000 or 2,100 and it's a minty box, go pick it up. It's not dropping much below what MSR, or sorry, what the market is calling for. You get like $50 or $100 off maximum, or maybe 150 depending on the person, right? If there's a deal there to be had, go take it, right? Or maybe you find a Destined Rival booster box and it's selling at like 350. That's way better than 400, and it's a minty box. Go buy it. Go buy it, right? It's not necessarily a fire sale, but really and like the thing about fire sales and good deals, only buy things that are good products, okay? So if you see someone selling Shrouded Fable at 80% of the market, you could go ahead and just skip that, right? If you see someone selling these like weird ancillary products like these big old Mega Evolution Venusaur boxes from Target and they're selling that like 80%, unless you're gonna rip it, I wouldn't spend my money on that, right? It's 40 bucks, 45 MSRP, and they sold it to you like at MSRP. Like you could have just gone to Target and gotten it yourself, like stuff like that. Don't buy it. Um, it just really depends on the product, and those are the things that I would look at next. And the amount of money you can spend on this, it could be the rest of your budget, right? You could find fire sale like, because 365 days in a year is a long time. And if you check Facebook Market or like some, stuff like that, your local, whatever market is in your place, and you check it like once a week, you're bound to find something, or like once a month. I find a fire sale at least like once a month of people. I think I saw on Discord that someone picked up I forgot what it was. Someone picked up something for $14,000 when the market price was 17,000, and it's like that's a fire sale right there. And you, if he had $14,000 ready, he's probably one of like, you know, these guys right here, right, that have $14,000 ready to just unlock and unload on Pokemon, right? And that could be his entire budget for the year. And that's okay because you got it at a fire sale, right? And if you had just gone that for the whole year, you're good already. You're done investing for the year. You can just hold it, keep it in your basement, and just move on, right? So that's really what I want to drive home today is that set a budget for yourself, and once you hit that budget, you you just stop. You stop. Focus on the MSRP items, look for good sales, look for good deals, and you're good, right? And sometimes you'll even have reprints combined with a fire sale because people are panicking. Um, I don't really like considering reprints because you just can't really tell when it'll happen. Same thing with fire sales, but reprints, like, you just don't know what it'll do. Like, Surging Sparks, it was 250 or 260, whatever, and it got hit by a reprint, and then you're able to find them like 210, 215. I think those are good to buy. That would be like what a reprint would do, right? If that hit the market, I would consider buying some reprints. But I would probably consider a fire sale over reprint. Like, what would you rather have? Like, a 151 UPC or two Surging Sparks booster boxes, right? If the UPC had a fire sale and you're able to find it at 440, which is how I got these guys over here, or you're able to find good deals or reprinted Surging Sparks or Phantasmal Flames, 220 each, like, hey, I'd much have the fire sale of a product that is, paying 600 would be a different story for the UPC. I would not buy it. But it was at 80%. Like, how could I not buy it? 80%. So I just picked up three 151 UPCs at 80%. That's a fire sale, and that burned through a lot of my budget, right? And so I think that's one thing to look for in this next year, in 2026, as you accumulate product. Look for the Pokemon Center and MSRP items. Look for the fire sales. You're bound to find enough. I think patience is the name of the game because wealth will lose the hands of those who are impatient, and it will end up in the hands of those who are patient. So I hope you learned a thing or two. Be patient. Wait for the Pokemon Center drops. Try your luck at it. Look for good sales on good products, of course, and buy them up. Buy it up. Don't go over your budget. Know what your means are and what you're willing to spend considering everything else in life. Pick a number. Don't go over it. Don't go over it. Don't take out loans, and you'll do just fine 3 to 5 years from now. And even better if you could do 5 to 7. So thank you for watching. I hope you learned something and you're able to build a budgeting or like a good investing plan for 2026. I'll see you next time. This is Tommy signing out with Pokey Accountant.